Hey guys, Dr. Morse, injury expert. So this is an update on Xavier Worthy. We saw immediately after Worthy and Kelsey collided, both hitting each other in the right shoulder, that with Kelsey being much larger and Xavier Worthy being on the smaller side at 165 pounds, he just got absolutely dismantled. Likely went to the sideline where the trainers or team docs would put the shoulder back in place. I'm not sure if they were able to reduce it on the sidelines. He then had a towel over his head and he walked off the field. He went to get x-rays in the back, and I don't know if they showed anything, probably negative, but he was ruled out for the rest of the game. He then had to travel from Brazil all the way to Kansas City and likely had an MRI either late last night or early this morning, where they essentially confirmed that yes, indeed, it was a right shoulder dislocation. Now, there's three separate levels of severity that we can talk about here. So a shoulder dislocation is the glenohumeral joint, the main joint, not the AC joint. So I had someone ask me earlier, what's the difference between a dislocated shoulder and a separated shoulder? And you'd think, well, they're just semantics. No, a separated shoulder is usually an AC sprain. A dislocated shoulder is usually the glenohumeral joint. Both annoying. This one is much more significant. Why? Because that's where the labrum is. The labrum is a big, thick ligament. Think of it almost like holding a golf ball on a tee. It is a thick, round ligament that essentially allows the arm to move in all of our crazy angles. If you think about it, the labrum is responsible for stabilizing all of our structures. Wherever we're putting our hand, it needs to be able to handle that. Now, as say a hockey player, if they dislocate their shoulder, their arms are going to be pretty close because they're doing this or they're doing a lot of hitting. They're not often ramping up and then hitting actual hockey pucks unless they're doing a shot. Whereas an NFL wide receiver has to reach out. They're having to acclimate. They're having to move. They're having to catch at weird angles. The problem with that is that dislocated shoulder, depending on where the labral tear is, will depend on what areas are stable and not stable, which areas are painful and not painful. So he's probably going to try to play with a brace that you'll see a little strap on the side of it here. But the question is that going to be enough to maintain stability? It takes one hit and he's going to pop that shoulder back out. So eventually he's going to need surgery to repair this. I fixed these with stem cells. Maybe they go that route initially, but realistically, he's going to probably end up requiring surgery. If we look at the labrum and we turn to the side, we look at the labrum like a clock. This would be noon, 3, 6, 9. Okay? Traditionally, these are from noon to 3. But the way he did his is probably a noon to 9, or a posterior labral tear. Sometimes we call them a slap tear, meaning superior labrum from anterior to posterior. So it's basically like 3 to 9, which would be a bad tear. Now, the more hours that are torn, the more instability there is. Inferior labral tears are pretty rare because you'd have to pretty much do it straight overhead, which is not very common. Now, the more hours that are torn, the more pain he's going to be in, the more instability he's going to have. If this is more than 3 hours or so, he's probably going to require season-ending surgery, really depending on how much pain he's in, how much instability he has, and if he's able to actively be able to reach. I just don't think, unless he got super lucky and it didn't look like that, that he's going to be able to return minimum 3 weeks. Realistically, this is probably season ending. And it's just unfortunate because they have to go in and re-sew the sutures. The labrum. It's almost like sewing paper mache. It's not exactly the strongest tissue. So when you sew it, you can't use your arm for about 6 weeks. You have to be in a sling, and then over time you can start to slowly stress it. But if you return too quickly and you stress it too quickly, you will re-tear those sutures, and you will obviously need to go back into the operating room and do it again. So that's why you can't just kind of wing this. That's assuming he doesn't have any fractures, he doesn't have any AC issues, he doesn't have any issues with the rotator cuff or anything else. So that's my update. Minimum 3 weeks for Xavier Worthy. More likely 8 weeks, or season ending is most likely. We're going to not see Rashee Rice for another 5 weeks. He's returning in week 7. But they're going to have to depend on Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, maybe Travis Kelce. They're going to maybe use Brashad Smith as more of a receiver. They're going to have to do something because throwing the ball 16 times to Hollywood Brown is not going to be pretty. I will give you more information when we got it. Hopefully that was helpful. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow on the next injury.